Hey, welcome to Not a Terrible Show. And it's a hard to say show name as well. It's Not a Terrible Show.
It's
And
not a terrible show.
I'm Brian Carter. This is Garrison Wynn.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Garrison. I like to call him Jarrison sometimes just for fun.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about what we're dubbing coronavirus depression. And that is the syndrome you experience when the world is halted by a pandemic. And of course, as we've said in our other show, it's not halted. There's a lot of good things to be hopeful about. But today we're just going to be depressed about it.
We'll have a much more positive show later on.
Yeah, not today.
So.
We'll just talk about our personal problems and how we're dealing with them and how we think other people should deal with our problems with them.
And I think, but to your point, that corona depression, as I'm calling it, it's normal to have circumstances that you don't like. I mean, there's two kinds of depression. There's clinical depression, which is like hereditary, right? And there's good old-fashioned depression where you just wake up one day and you lost $250,000. It's called normal depression.
Well, there's also, I mean, I remember reading the diagnosis statistics manual for the American Psychological Association because I was involved in medicine before and I had to create some courses and stuff that were related to psychology. Right. And I remember reading that it's like, let's say your spouse dies or something. Like you can be depressed for, I think, 6 weeks. Like
You're going to start with that? You're going to start with dead spouse? Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, because we're in the realm, of like the most disturbing things that can happen to people, right? Like losing their job, divorce, moving is up there as well, which people underestimate. But, you can have a temporary depression that lasts 6 weeks when a big event happens. And, we know about the 6 stages of grief too.
Right.
Like when, I read a great article that said a lot of people are grieving right now because, there's a sense of sadness that happened with all these changes having, and we have an uncertain future as well. Right. So it's really easy to be, to get depressed about it without really realizing it,
That's a really good point. I think sometimes people don't really know that they are depressed or they don't really understand how they're feeling and they're operating through that feeling,
Right.
I saw a guy here in my building and he was taking the garbage out into a garbage chute and he seemed calm until he just smashed the garbage into the wall pretty much and just walked off. It's like you could tell, I don't think he knew. So
was it because he couldn't do the garbage properly, or he just was taking out his anger on the garbage?
We have a new fancy thing. It's called a rubbish bin. As in rubbish, as in garbage. That's the British garbage. Apparently, is rubbish.
Yeah.
Where, for example, rubbish here is like maybe what we're talking about is rubbish. But I think that he just pulled the door down. He went to do it. It didn't work like he normally expected it to work. So instead of putting in that extra effort to overcome the difficult circumstance, he just smashed an entire thing of garbage into a wall and kind of walked away. So,
yeah. It's I don't know. And like I said, I've been irritable. Like last night I was trying to watch, TV with my wife and I was like, well, let's watch this thing on the national parks. This should be relaxing, right?
Sure.
So we start watching this thing, Ken Burns, the national parks documentary. And my wife's sitting there. I'm like, why do you keep Googling? Would you stop Googling? What are you doing? Is the show not good enough for you? And then she's like doing something with her fingers. I'm like, what are you doing to your fingers over there? You know? So that's just, I mean, when you're stressed out, it can come out in all kinds of different ways.
Well, I think so because, under normal circumstances, you might look at your wife and say, I love you. And then sometimes under different circumstances, you might say, I have a question for you. Why did I marry you? I'd like to know why. Why did I marry you?
Yeah. So. It's never, anyway. But when you're with someone for a long period of time, you develop a lot of love and patience and also annoyances, but you for the most part, that's not an issue anymore. But these are extraordinary times, So.
Yeah, they are extraordinary times, and what helps me, because I'm a big history guy, is the fact that we've been through this before, and I've read some stuff that people wrote in the time of cholera and things like that. Some stuff that was written in 1918. And people feel the same way they feel today. They're quarantined. They're kind of stuck. They are worried. They're concerned. Don't know when it's going to be over.
Yeah.
Back then, the information was very slow, and they didn't really know a lot.
Yeah.
So they were very fearful. They didn't understand social distancing at all, which hospital beds that are 3 feet apart was not what they were doing. That they were just side by side, and so they just didn't know a lot. But what's similar, what I thought was interesting, I read about during the time of cholera, is that people believed that we're on the planet for a reason. We've been around for a long time, and we're not really great survivors. We don't have good claws. We're not fast. There's nothing about human beings that allow us to survive, right?
It's up here.
It's up here. And so the belief systems that we hold they're really the key. Stress doesn't exist. We have to actually summon stress. We have to actually hold a belief. And that belief creates the feeling that we actually have. So
yeah,
I think that there's some stuff written about that back then.
That's true. Well, it's interesting. I remember one of the things I think it was in medical school also is like what's the difference between stress and duress? And duress is an external force. Stress is an internal force. And I think you're right. I mean, and I don't know if we said it on this last show or I've just been saying this to other people recently.
Right.
Because I don't remember individual people. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
But
that's nice to know, Brian.
Yes.
We all feel special now. Go ahead. Yeah, I've never felt so special in my life. Go ahead.
Yeah. What's your name again? But
it's Jarrison.
Jarrison
right. Gwynn.
Harrison Gwynn. Harrison twin.
Garrison Gwynn. Go ahead.
Jarrison's twin.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's that we need a belief in the future that's going to work. Like we have to have a hope. We have to and a lot of times it's just little things like, oh my gosh, that new series is coming out in a week, or or I really think the next quarter is going to be good for business, or I'm going to buy this thing. There's a lot of stuff that we use to feel like the future is a good thing.
Well, and I have great compassion for you, Ryan.
Thanks, Marison.
Whatever your name is. But
yes.
I think sometimes we do have to live in the moment, appreciate the little things, and kind of live day by day. It's interesting that we forget that in times of tragedy, it's very difficult to see anything but the tragedy. In times of uncertainty, it's difficult to see anything but uncertainty. So you kind of have to shrink your world down to the day, to the moment, and I found, I need to enjoy my meal. I need to enjoy the show I watch. I need to enjoy the show we're doing today. Just kind of live in, life really is in the small moments. You can't live in the wreckage of the future. And there's no way that you can reflect on the past, hoping and wishing you had a time machine to go back. So.
Yeah, and I think if you're like one of those type A people who, I don't know, I think you and I can both be like this, where you're kind of like, I feel like I'm in control of the future, and these are my plans, and this is what I'm doing. Right. This is what I'm making happen. And in a time like this, it's like, you have less of those things available that make you feel like you're in control,
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
difficult.
That may be the biggest point of all today, Brian, because I have basically always had big plans and goals, and I just always had that, even though I was a kid. And I've accomplished goals, meaning I've set out to do things, and I walk the path and accomplish the goals. I looked at some 1999 goals that were kind of out of control, but by 2008 or 2000, I'd done almost all of those goals. But I realized I've done those goals because circumstances were to some degree within my control.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if there was a business problem, it might have been a market fluctuation, but even in the downturn of 2008, my business went up. So I've never had a situation before where there's absolutely your best effort in that exact moment may not count at all. That's different for me. So,
it's tough. I mean, I've talked to people who did have issues with the 2008 downturn, really talented, smart people who couldn't get a job for a year or something.
Right.
And that's rough. I was lucky because I was in a good job, and the economy of that job was very good. And, I don't know, around, any of the other downturns we've had before, I was either like in school or had a good, good job that wasn't affected. So, it's tough when these things happen. I agree. You got to kind of day at a time. What can I control? What's really going on with me? Am I really aware of my feelings and my beliefs? And do I need to switch something there? And do what you can, but then you got to like rest. You got to be like, okay, I've done what I can for today. That's it. Tomorrow,
I feel like I've been lucky.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I've ever felt like my luck ran out. That's not a feeling I've, 10 days ago, I felt my luck has run out. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I had a program, which I still have today, called Making the Most of Difficult Situations, Changing Markets, Changing Times. I had that program in 2004. But all of a sudden, 2008 hit, and we were marketing pretty strongly, and people saw that program. And I mean, I think it's the only time I ever got booked just on the title of the program. I mean, people, so that's just called luck. It was the right place at the right time. And I feel I have been lucky to some degree. I think it was 10 days ago where I woke up and said, geez, I think my luck is over. That's
a little extreme. That's what I call going global. Like, right. You don't want to, go global, like with, it's almost like I got a stomach ache. It's cancer, or I'm always going to have this headache.
I dated a girl one time, and she was explaining to me all her aches and pains. This was many years ago, and she just had every kind of. I mean, she had every symptom. I've never heard of anyone with every symptom. I said, I believe. I said, I'm not a doctor, but I believe you might have full body cancer. Just complete breakdown.
I always like to joke. I mean, I know I have a really close loved one who has a lot of issues with health issues, and I always tell them it's their attitude. If they would just fix their attitude, which is total BS. I mean, it's not in their control, but I that's how I like to lighten the mood with it.
Well, but there is something changing. In the last 3 or 4 years, I've talked to 2 people who had stage 4 cancer in 2 different areas. I know a guy that's got colon cancer and liver cancer, and he's jogging right now. I know, some people, maybe it's attitude. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Some people are hard to kill, but I think so. But But I wanted to say this, that I think, and you make a very good point with all this. I think that we have to believe what will work for us. In other words, there's lots of things we can believe, but we can choose to believe it'll work for us. For example, to believe that this is never going to be over, that we're going to spend the rest of our lives, communicating on Zoom, and we're never going to have another live event, and that we're not going to be okay, and that we're going to be wearing hazmat suits for the rest of our lives. Or I think you and your wife, I believe, bought goggles, whatever your goggles that you have.
Yeah, the swim goggles.
That won't help you at all. Part of us says, but part of us go, well, we got to get used to the reality. You got to get in the new reality. Well, that's not reality, because when you don't have any data for the future, which you almost don't have in general, you do have data in the past. We know that we've had problems like this that were considerably worse, and we came back from those every time and time again.
Right.
So if you're a data guy, you're a analytics guy, then you've got to understand the chances that this is not going to be better or going to get worse. We're all going to have some horrible existence. That's not very good. That's a science fiction movie. Yeah.
I don't believe that. I agree. And I think hopefully we can all agree that, this virus is going to end at some point. We're going to gain immunity to it, even if there are mutations and so on.
Right.
And even if we have another Great Depression, we recovered from the last one in 29. So we're going to recover from this one. And it's just a matter of time. It's really more like we don't know how long it's going to be or what exactly it's going to look like, but you can still have faith that things are going to be.
That's right.
And I look at, in 5 years, right? Like, even if it's 5 years, some people say, oh, if we have this whole huge economic meltdown, it's going to take 3 years to get back. Well, 3 years is not that long. I mean, we humans adapt to things. So like in 5 years, things are back or better. Who knows?
Right.
Like, that's not.
Well, and I look what's going on now. Right now, China's on the other side of it. Spain looks like they're on the other side of it. Yeah. Italy, So we may be peaking right now. When you're peaking, it's hard to,
The
No
darkest
matter what
days.
you're peeking in, and the moment you're peeking, you can't really see anything. So
I don't know
that's
anything
kind of
about peeking or creeping, but
no, I don't mean peeking like you're looking at someone's window. And I've always thought, exactly how many windows did Tom look into for that we now say peeping Tom? Who is this guy?
or maybe it
Like,
was
he must have-
multiple Toms. Maybe there was just like an issue in a town, and they're like, why are these guys all named Tom? What's up with that?
Okay, the chances that 40 guys named Tom are looking at windows, zero chance of that. What I'm saying is,
there's 100% chance if it happens.
okay, here's my other example. You've seen the little thing that spins around like a lazy Susan, right? How lazy was the original Susan they named that after her? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. We need to name something after Karen, though.
Karen,
You know what
who-
Karen is? You know what Karen? Oh, Karen is this is a millennial term for like a suburban woman who's always talking to somebody's manager about the problem
Oh,
they're
Karen,
having.
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
But again,
Anyway.
what kind of problem must the original Karen have caused to end up with the word being Karen?
But I think I think there probably were a lot of women named Karen who were talking to managers. I think, where else does it come from? It's not Molly. It's
How
not
verbose was
Susan.
Chatty Cathy to be Chatty Cathy? I mean, I'm saying it's the origin of the thing.
I don't know. I wish we had researchers on this show. We could have
we
them
should
just
get
look this stuff up.
we should get some people with some information.
We
What
need
are
somebody
doing?
off camera that's doing a research,
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, I've got an industrial psychologist that I work with, but you don't want to put him on camera or even off camera. You don't want to have him anywhere near the source of information.
That's
What he
often true of
says is so bad.
psychologists. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not to denigrate an entire profession.
No, but when he basically is really good at taking something that sounds pretty good and just removing the goodness from it and giving you this horrific thing. You have to kind of put the goodness back in it. So.
Okay. So he's just bad at public speaking and
He has a kind of a happiness removal process for dating. Kind of a process.
I'm surprised I haven't been accused of that,
Well, so my grandmother, God rest her soul, she had some type of flavor removal process. She could cook anything and had to suck the flavor right out of it.
Wow.
Yep.
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, I still have a bad taste in my mouth from her iced tea, and she died in 1999. So it's kind of.
Yeah, my grandma and I used to make deviled eggs together. Yeah. She never had a recipe for it either. Everything she did, she knew how to make it. She just was like, just put them in there, Yes.
Well, your grandmother also, didn't she die like 110 or something like that?
She was 105.
Wow.
And we would go up there. I would pretend to not know how to make deviled eggs, so she would just show me again,
Well, she's that old. She probably learned how to make deviled eggs from Lucifer himself if she's 105 years old. That's pretty.
Yeah. She was born in 1912, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, she lived through the Spanish flu and
Yeah, everything.
World War II, everything.
Yeah, man, 1912. So that's the year the Titanic sunk. So she was born right at the end of the Victorian age. I read a book one time that said that the Victorian age ended as the Titanic sunk. I don't understand what that actually means, though.
Maybe a lot of rich people that were Victorian died and they couldn't do it anymore.
But there's and I forget what it is exactly, but in the book, The Unsinkable Molly Brown was on the Titanic, and she survived. And she was criticized for the book being kind of full of it, and not really very true. But she said something in that book that I've always remembered about. I read this book when I was a kid. That when things are as bad as they can be, and the outcome is as bleak, right? As it can possibly be, you can have some solace and rest assured that whatever the next thing you think will be better than the thought you have now. Something like that about when you're at that. It's kind of dark before the dawn, but when you're at that point, that's just,
Yeah, it's been tough. Like, I mean, it's like, I would say it was pretty dark for us, like with our advertising agency, when we had a few clients all stop in the same week or so,
right,
but the next week some of them came back, and some of them are businesses too where I'm like, wow, I mean, I guess you can be socially distancing and go out and do this business activity and but so there's already been like a darkest point for us and things coming back,
Right.
and it's cool. And interestingly, this is not really our topic today, but I discovered all kinds of stuff. I was looking at the data, and this is the best time to advertise on Facebook ever, because
Oh,
like
sure.
the costs are like 80% lower right now. Like the
Right.
interesting thing is too, and this is maybe more of a business strategy than coronavirus depression, but one way to
Right.
flip all those bad things that are happening right now is look at
Right.
what's the shiny side of the coin, and
Sure.
when less people are advertising, the costs go down. So if you can,
Right.
and you're advertising something you're still offering, it's a great time to do it. I mean, there's certainly more details to which platform you'd use and all that kind of stuff, but there is a what's that called? Like a, I don't know. There's a good side to this, which that's
Sure.
one of them,
Well,
So,
there's a silver lining, and
silver lining.
right. And I think that like for us, we're definitely this week seeing customers come back, some leads come back, our virtual programs that people who didn't really think they want to do a virtual program are now going to do virtual programs. So we're seeing all that. So that's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's great. Yep. Well, so there we go. We're not depressed anymore.
right. I'm totally okay. Yeah, I think that
Until, 4
Yeah.
hours from now when I read more news.
Well, the one thing about, and again, we have to be careful about the input we give ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to defend the media here, and I get a lot of criticism for this, for defending the media. The media is just not in the business of making you feel better. It's not how they make money.
Oh, yeah, for
There's
sure.
not a nickel. There's just no,
I don't blame them.
I mean, if you had yeah,
there's a lot of bad news right now.
right.
It's just,
And but there's no money in good news. There's not a nickel. I had a thing I used to say where, if you ran an ad or you put out something, it said, life is good, life is great, who's interested? But if you
I
say,
don't know.
if you say headless body found in topless bar, well, that's news. I mean,
I'm not even sure what I know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
I mean, he belongs there because he's lost the top. So I mean,
I'm just saying, it's a great headline, headless body found in topless bar.
It is.
But we like bad news, and they say, when I say they, this is the studies of human existence and how the brain works, that 75% of our initial thoughts are kind of negative, protecting ourselves. Look out for the saber-toothed tiger, don't eat the poisonous plant. That's kind of where we came from. And once we get all our needs met with food and relationships and security and all that natural negative protective thought can just absorb the bad things. And so when we're watching the news, let's be honest, I mean, what are we looking for? I mean, think of it this way. Let's picture a beautiful train, nice modern train, whizzing through the European countryside. It looks fantastic. It's picturesque. Do you want to watch that train? No, we want to watch it wreck. If it wrecks, I am watching the wreck train.
Yeah. We want to know
That's
why
what we like.
why the guy wrecked it and what's wrong with him and
That's
all
exactly
that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're just looking out for danger, and I mean that's
Right,
why
yeah.
there have been periods in my life where I didn't watch the news for years. But something bad happens, like
Yeah.
9/11 happens, I'm on it. I'm watching the news. This stuff happens, I've been reading the news and research and stuff like that nonstop. I mean, with the exception of sometimes I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to do some art, Garrison. I got some more art markers again.
That's pretty
And,
good. So I think you and your wife, you put the goggles on, you do the art,
Yeah.
But if the news stations were really, truly honest, they'd call it the bad news. And no one's
Yeah.
going to watch the bad news. It's got to be the news.
Yep, that's right.
But one thing I think is important for people to know, that every city, every state really has a different way of looking at what's going on. You can, run a camera down, in New York, and you can see nobody in the street, nothing, this kind of Omega Man-esque look where there's nobody out.
Yeah.
And then in here in Houston, I can look out my balcony and there are people walking around, jogging. There are people everywhere. For some reason, the kolache factory is just, I don't know why people need kolaches.
I don't
It's
even know what a
just car
kolache
after
is.
car after car.
It sounds like a Greek colonoscopy.
Yeah. Right. Well, did you have a colonoscopy? Worse, I had a kolache.
I had a
It was just,
kolache. It's like a messy colonoscopy.
it sounds like a bad Italian surgery.
Yeah, I'm also part
there.
Cherokee, which, there's a lot of things that make me cool,
Our next show, 5 things that make Brian cool. Number
Oh,
one,
that's
he's
not
part cherry.
enough. That's
Number
not
two,
enough. We need 21. 21 things that make Brian cool.
yeah, but there are things that people don't know about you.
Yeah.
Let's see. You are an expert in alternative medicines. Is that people don't know
Yeah,
that?
I
Maybe.
used to be an acupuncturist. Yeah.
That's right. That's a stick-on beard. People don't realize that's not your real beard. Many things that people don't
right.
really know
Yeah.
about you.
Not all
But
of my shirts are geeky like this one. But yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All my shirts are some form of blue or black.
Your shirts are, you have good shirts. I mean, this is a man who knows how to buy and is willing to pay for a good shirt.
Yep.
And I have learned the hard way. I don't understand why are wrinkle-free clothes getting wrinkled? I don't like, why are there shirts that claim to be wrinkle-free, but I've got a bunch of them in my closet that are totally wrinkled right now.
Well, did you wash them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of wrinkle-free clothing is wrinkle-free. The fabric itself doesn't wrinkle when you just have it and, hanging around or lay it down.
Yeah.
But if you actually wash it, some of the stuff, some of the chemicals that might be used or the type of fabric actually wrinkles pretty bad. So unless you're really paying top dollar for something.
Are you saying I remove the unwrinkledness potential? Like it'll never.
You de-unwrinkled?
Yeah, I de-unwrinkled it. Okay.
Yeah, but it's really about what you pay. I mean, if you pay $300 for a dress shirt, you get like an Eton or something like that.
Yeah.
The fabric that's used is so high end, it's amazing. If you buy a really expensive suit like these Italian wools,
Yeah.
you can take the suit out of the suitcase and just shake it and hang it. It has no wrinkles in 5 hours. They just fall out.
Yeah. I got a
That's
suit.
very
I got a
different.
suit like that, but not the shirts. And that's the, if we recover from this economic depression, or if hey Eton,
Yeah,
tough
I know.
times, maybe make them $100. I don't know.
And I think it's spelled Eton like the school in England, but it's
Yeah.
Eton. And I got to tell you, I have no affiliation with them, but I had a shirt problem for about 8 years of not being able to find a good, decent dress shirt. And I was traveling, speaking at conventions, and just wearing crap shirts. And I finally found one that worked. So,
Yeah, good shirts.
paying
important.
top dollar for crappy shirts. I mean, you could actually pay a lot of money for a bad shirt. So,
Yeah, it is. It's important to have a good shirt. That's true.
yeah. But I think first of all, I don't think this is a terrible show. I think this is not a terrible show. So
No, I don't think it's very. I think it's a little all over the place, but I think it's good. And
Well, I think that we're dealing with the fact that things have changed and how
Yeah.
we feel.
Yeah.
And
people are
I think
distractible right now. People are just stressed out, and it's tough to operate at high efficiency when you're stressed out. It's tough to even.
well, there's
talk,
some people who've
evidently.
never spent more than an hour with their kids. You just spent 45 hours with their kids. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I love the post.
There-
There was a good post that was like, "I'm having a great time. Discovered this woman in my house who evidently is my wife and evidently works at a bank." Just
Oh yeah.
funny posts like that.
Well, I went down to the Amazon, box facility at the bottom floor of my building, and there were people all there who I just had seen a little bit, and then we're all talking and everything like that. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Some people I just didn't really know.
Right.
And I talked to a couple of them, and was glad I didn't know them. But still, I mean, it was interesting that how little interaction that we have sometimes with people. We forget that there are people in our sphere, or whatever, that we don't really connect to very well. So
Yeah, and speaking of spheres, this would be a good time to buy one of those balls that you get inside and you can run around and it just roll all over the place because
Yeah.
it's you're kind of quarantining yourself while having fun outdoors.
Well, the level of paranoia you have to live inside of an inflatable ball means that you've got bigger problems, in general. I mean, I understand that we want to protect ourselves, but if I've seen those things before.
They may have to make the doors wide enough for us to do that.
Well,
I'll just be like little hamsters and balls.
I don't know if I'm ready for the hamster ball world. I don't know, if I can live in
Think how much fun it would be.
I mean, if you're about being depressed, if they announce tomorrow that we all must be in hamster balls, that's what we got to do.
That was great. Brian threw up in his ball. It's ruined. That's one thing you don't want to have in one of those balls is a bunch of throw up.
What happened? He threw up in his hamster ball. That's what happened.
He threw up, and his sense of humor went back to when he was 12.
And then
So
you
anyway,
see two people in the same ball, which defeats the entire purpose of that. That's,
yeah. I mean, if you're married, you definitely don't want to end up in the same ball with your spouse. Like,
you can't put two hamsters in the same ball. But I think that, but I think to put a cap on all this, or put a cap in this, we'll just put a cap in and kill it.
Yeah.
You can cap it or cap it.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes we have to acknowledge that it could be possible that we are operating through a filter of depression that we don't know we have. And we acknowledge that. And if you're out there and you're feeling, depressed or freaked out or something like that, this is pretty normal. When the news comes on and tries to tell you that the world may be ending, it's normal not to feel fantastic about that.
Right.
So,
yeah. And if you're an introvert, like you can write about this stuff and pretty quickly see what you're thinking of feeling. If you're an extrovert, a lot of extroverts like to just talk it out with somebody. So you make sure you're talking to people about what's going on with you.
That's a really good point. Sometimes there are some people that unless they're talking about it and talking it out, they're not getting past it.
Yeah.
There's no book they can read, no process they can go through.
Right.
That's years ago, I read an article about the people who went to just talk therapy. The people who went to talk therapy actually had better things to say than people who went through all these processes and all the things that they did. That a lot of people had different opinions on that. But of course, and I thought about something though. They only interview people who've been going to talk therapy for 10 years. Well, if you've been going for 10 years, of course you like it. That's kind of was my opinion.
That's a good point.
You've been going 10 years. Who doesn't?
I like both. I mean, I like to write sometimes, and I like to talk it out, with people too. So they're both useful. And there you go. So that's how you get out of Corona depression.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you have to take action. I think you have to, change is not an epiphany. It's like an action. You gotta pray. True. You gotta pray and get up and act like it worked. Like you gotta have faith, but then you have to take some action. I think that's been said somewhere before, maybe possibly in every piece of literature ever written.
Right. Take some action.
Faith without action is kind of a waste of time.
Right. And it's just the same thing. If you're meditating, you can have all these realizations, whatever, that hopefully drive you to get up and do something, after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think the show will leave the people with what's the next right thing what's the next action that you can take that puts you into the best direction possible? What can you do next? That might mean just making a sandwich, or it might mean just sitting down, and it might mean sending an email, to that client that you're not really sure about. You don't know where they are. It might be taking a little bit of effort, to just at least kind of, to check the temperature of the people around you.
And I think you got to be gentle to yourself. I think, it's harder to work sometimes when things are emotional. So you got to do what you can and then take a break, come back to it, do as much as you can, but be nice to yourself and the people around you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, again, I think this is not a terrible show. It was not a terrible show.
Not terrible. No.
No.
But and the name is definitely not terrible. Good to see me.
Yeah. Good to see you.
It is good to see me.
Well and all that stuff.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good to,
so you're
good
saying
to see
it's
you.
good for you. You're looking at your own screen.
It's
going,
good to see me on this screen as well.
It's good to see me. It's good to see me too. I'm looking at me going, it's good to see me. Yeah, absolutely. So can I borrow that beard? I'd like to borrow it. Just the one.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Through the mail. I'll send it in an envelope. It's pretty. Once you take it off, it just flattens it out.
I don't know about postal laws, but I think mailing a beard is going to be a red flag.
How did it keep it together? I don't know.
I just want to call the post office and go, hey, somebody mailed me a beard. What do I do with it?
No, it's a real beard.
Yeah, it's a real beard.
It's living. It's moving.
Sir, put the beard down and step back. Step away from the beard. Please step away from the beard.
Wait, it's trying to say something. What do you want to say, beard? What do you say, beard?
Everybody stand back. The beard's going to talk.
Okay. Oh, it's cute when he talks.
Oh, it's a cute little beard. Yeah.
It's not.
Yep.
All right. So that's the end of the show. You guys take care. Stay safe.
Yep.
I'm
Everybody
Brian
take care.
Carter, and that's Garrison Wynn.
And I'm Garrison Wynn.
Garrison Harrison Wynn.
It's Garrison Wynn, and that is Ryan Barter.